Catholic dogmas and authorities. So who is really bashing whom? We've already discovered from John's vision that these four criteria, being a city known as Babylon, built on 7 hills, that committed spiritual fornication with Earth's rulers, have ruled out every city on Earth except Rome. We're of course not talking about political civil Rome, but about religious Rome, and more specifically the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church as the worldwide leader of a false and antichrist Christianity. The Pope is currently leading the greatest ecumenical movement in history in order to unite all religions under Rome's leadership. As only one example, in 1986, Pope John Paul II gathered in Assisi, Italy, the leaders of the world's major religions to pray for peace. There were snake worshippers, fire worshippers, spiritists, animists, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, North American Indian witch doctors. I watched in astonishment as they walked to the microphone to pray. The Pope said they were all praying to the same God, and that their prayers were creating a spiritual energy that was bringing about a new climate for peace. On that occasion, John Paul II allowed his good friend the Dalai Lama to put the Buddha on the altar in St. Peter's Church in Assisi, and with his monks have the Buddhist worship ceremony there, while Shintoists chanted and tinkled their bells outside. The prophesied world religion is in the process of being formed before our eyes, and the Vatican is the headquarters of the movement. Is this not spiritual fornication, such as no other city either has committed or could commit? The objection is raised that Vatican City is only a small part of Rome and is not itself built on 7 hills. Historically, however, the popes ruled as kings over all of Rome and the surrounding area, as well as over large territories across Italy known as the Papal States. Pope Innocent III abolished the Roman Senate and placed the administration of Rome directly under his control. It wasn't until 1870 that Rome and the other Vatican-controlled territories were finally captured by the army of the newly united Italy. The Jews were liberated at last from Rome's shameful ghetto, and Pope Pius IX took refuge in Vatican City, which has been the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church ever since. Today, the Vatican still owns about 1/3 of Rome, and its influence is everywhere through its monuments, churches, and other institutions scattered throughout the entire city of 7 hills. That church proudly identifies itself as the Roman Catholic Church. A recent article in the National Catholic Reporter, titled, quote, "Rome, where the Pontiff reigns supreme," declared, "No city comes close to being so suffused with religious culture as Rome is with Catholicism. What has emerged over the centuries is unmistakably a culture of the papacy," unquote. The article goes on to refer to the monuments to Roman Catholicism found everywhere in Rome and states, quote, "All roads lead sooner or later down the Via della Conciliazione to the Vatican. Rome is the world's spiritual crossroads," unquote. Our Sunday Visitor's Catholic Encyclopedia adds, quote, "Hence, one understands the central place of Rome in the life of the Church today and the significance of the title Roman Catholic Church. Since the founding of the Church there, Rome has been the center of all Christianity. World's spiritual crossroads, center of all Christianity. This is the one city in the world built on 7 hills and known as Babylon, which is undoubtedly a spiritual entity. The popes have repeatedly engaged in partnership and thus spiritual fornication with emperors, kings, and princes. Claiming to be the bride of Christ, the Roman Catholic Church has been in bed with godless rulers down through history. Hundreds of examples could be given, not just from centuries past, but from recent times as well. Consider, for example, the alliances with Mussolini and Hitler. The Vatican literally put Mussolini into power. Pope Pius XI and his cardinals praised Mussolini as a man chosen by God and forbade Roman Catholics to oppose him politically. In turn, Mussolini signed the Concordat with the Vatican in 1929, making Roman Catholicism the sole religion of Italy. The Vatican received 750 million lire in cash and 1 billion in state bonds. 4 years later, in 1933, came a similar Concordat with Hitler, resulting in the Vatican's reception of hundreds of millions of German marks from the Nazi regime all through World War II. Similar Concordats with many other governments have made the Roman Catholic Church the only religion allowed in those countries and have brought persecution and death upon thousands of evangelicals. One could not ask for clear examples of fornication with the kings of the earth. Ancient Babylon doesn't meet this criteria, nor does any other city. Christ never joined forces with Caesar, nor did Peter or Paul. But the Roman Catholic Church has continually engaged in adulterous relationships with secular rulers right up to the present. The cover of Time magazine, February 24, 1992, declared, quote, "Holy Alliance, how Reagan and the Pope conspired to assist Poland's solidarity movement and hasten the demise of communism," unquote. The alliance between Reagan and Pope John Paul II, between the CIA and the alleged Vicar of Christ, could only be called spiritual fornication. Vatican liaison to the White House, Archbishop Pio Laghi, kept reminding American officials, quote, "Listen to the Holy Father. We have 2,000 years experience at this," unquote. 2,000 years is an exaggeration, but there have been centuries of political intrigue at which the Vatican is clearly the master. And this is the true church? No, this is the whore. Mikhail Gorbachev, who has called the Pope, quote, "the highest spiritual authority on earth," wrote in his syndicated column, quote, "Pope John Paul II played a major political role in the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. The events in Eastern Europe might not have been possible without the presence of this Pope, without the great role which he knew how to play on the world scene," unquote. Such praise could never have been given to Christ or to his apostles, who were martyred by the secular world, which the popes have embraced in spiritual fornication and have even dominated. Well, we could give many other examples. Fifth, this city on 7 hills, quote, "rules over the kings of the earth," verse 19. In John's day, of course, it was the Rome of the Caesars that ruled the world. After the Caesars lost their power, the popes ruled in their place and over wider territories and often more ruthlessly. Christ said that his kingdom is not of this world and his servants are not to fight. In direct disobedience, the popes, who included some of the greatest military commanders in history, Pope Innocent III never lost a battle. They fought with armies and navies in the name of Christ to build a huge kingdom, an unrivaled worldwide empire, property, wealth, and political influence, which is very much of this world. Papal worldly power has been wielded for centuries in fulfillment of John's remarkable vision, while ancient Babylon has been in ruins. Hundreds of examples could be given. Here are a few. Pope Alexander II decreed that Harold, the lawful king of England, was a usurper, excommunicated him and his followers, and gave the throne to William, Duke of Normandy. With the Pope's blessing, William the Conqueror killed Harold in battle, took over England, and was crowned in London on Christmas Day 1066. He accepted the crown of England, quote, in the name of the Holy See of Rome, unquote. As the Pope's agent, William the Conqueror, now their king, was required to teach the English people due obedience to Christ's vicar and to pay their taxes to the Pope punctually. Pope Alexander III excommunicated the Roman Emperor, Frederick Barbarossa, Frederick I. The latter came for revenge with his armies against the Pope and was soundly defeated. Frederick I, the Emperor, came to Venice where he groveled at the Pope's feet with his face in the dust, begging forgiveness. The Pope put his heel on the Emperor's neck while the cardinals chanted, "Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder," and so forth. Papal Rome has ruled the kings of this earth for centuries, while ancient Babylon lay in ruins. Pope Gregory VII's claim to be king of kings was no idle boast. In 1077, Gregory forbade Henry IV, heir of Charlemagne. By the way, Charlemagne had been crowned emperor by Pope Leo III. He forbade Henry IV, heir of Charlemagne, supreme head of the Holy Roman Empire, to rule the kingdoms of Italy and Germany, and threatened to excommunicate anyone who would serve him as king. Henry journeyed across the Alps in winter to beg the Pope's forgiveness. The humbled emperor had to stand 3 days in penitence, barefoot and in a haircloth shirt, outside the Pope's castle at Canossa before he was granted an audience to express his repentance. In 1155, Pope Adrian IV gave the crown of Ireland to the King of England, consigning the Irish to the merciless cruelties of Henry II. A later King of England, John Lackland, tried to break free from Rome, and Pope Innocent III forced him to surrender his crown, thereafter allowing him to rule only as a vassal of the Holy See. One 18th century Catholic historian counted 95 popes who claimed to have divine power to depose kings and emperors. Historian R.W. Southern declared, quote, during the whole medieval period, there was in Rome a single spiritual and temporal authority exercising powers which in the end exceeded those that had ever lain within the grasp of a Roman emperor, unquote. Pope Gregory XI's papal bull of 1372 in Cona Domini claimed papal dominion over the entire Christian world, secular and religious, and excommunicated all who failed to obey the popes and to pay them taxes. The bull was confirmed by subsequent popes, and in 1568, Pope Pius V swore that it was to remain an eternal law. Surely no other city at the present or in history can rival the way in which Rome, especially Catholic Rome, qualifies as the city on 7 hills which reigns over kings. Hundreds more examples could be given covering centuries when Babylon lay in ruins. Nor is empire building an abandoned feature of the past. The Second Vatican Council declared that, quote, the Catholic Church ceaselessly and efficaciously seeks for the return of all humanity and all its goods under Christ, unquote, meaning, of course, under the Pope, Christ's alleged vicar. The sixth point. Not only is Babylon the code name for Rome, but Rome's connections to Babylon go much deeper. Ancient Babylon drew its Semitic name, Babilu, Gate of God, from the Tower of Babel around whose ruins it was built. That tower, designed to reach to heaven, was the headquarters of the first world religion, just as Rome will be for the coming world religion of Antichrist. Furthermore, just as Babel's tower and city, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach to heaven. But just as Babel's tower and city united church and state, so the popes wielded both civil and religious authority, and in like manner the woman and the beast she rides will unite the coming world government and world religion. With its attempt to reach heaven by steps of its own making, Babylon, was the ultimate works religion. And so it is in Roman Catholicism. Salvation is unquestionably by works. Vatican II declares, quote, to gain indulgences, the work prescribed must be done. From the most ancient times in the church, good works were also offered to God for the salvation of sinners. All men may attain to salvation through faith, baptism, and the observance of the commandments, unquote. The Council of Trent, as reproposed by Vatican II, decreed, quote, if anyone says that the sacraments of the new law are not necessary, talk about Galatianism and the Judaizers, if anyone says that the sacraments of the new law are not necessary for salvation, and that without them men obtain from God through faith alone the grace of justification, let him be anathema. That's one of more than 100 anathemas. Clearly, good works play a key role in earning salvation in Catholicism, as the average Catholic would testify. Thus, by its practice of salvation through good works and ritual, Catholic Rome once again fits the description of the woman whose name is Babylon. The seventh identifying feature, John tells us that the name Babylon emblazoned on the woman's forehead is preceded by the word mystery. Here again, mystery is the very heart of Roman Catholicism. Pope Paul VI's encyclical on the Eucharist is titled Mysterium Fidei. Vatican II refers repeatedly to, quote, the mystery of the Eucharist, unquote. The Vatican's new Universal Catechism declares that all of the Church's liturgy is mystery, and that its aim is, quote, to initiate souls into the mystery of Christ. It is mystagogy, unquote. By claiming to be the custodian of a mystery, which only its priests and bishops can mediate, the Roman Catholic Church keeps its members dependent upon it rather than upon Christ for their salvation, which it has historically sold for money, and still does so today, and thus trades in the souls of men, as Revelation 18:13 says.